Disclaimer, just because I'm criticizing someone does not mean that I hate him. And just because this video is mostly defending SAO does not mean that I like it or believe it shouldn't be criticized. I'm making this video in order to debunk some misconceptions about it spread by people who believe it is morally wrong to actually, you know what, fuck it. Fuck the disclaimer, fuck it all. Why am I even trying to appease them? They're just gonna dislike it no matter what I say. So fuck it. We don't support dissing unless it's dissing people who diss those who disagree with them. And yes, I do actually hate AniSins, so let's get into that.
This video contains shit!
Notice, AniSins is completely inspired by the channel CinemaSins and their series Everything Wrong With. AniSins would have never been birthed without them.
Yeah, wouldn't that have been a shame?
We need to make a big deal out of video games in the first scene, apparently.
Well, yeah, considering that video games are a big deal in this universe with the whole first true virtual reality world being released, it makes sense to treat them as such.
Link start!
And thus my nightmare begins.
And this video series is the beginning of my own.
You act like you know your way around here. You were in the beta test, weren't you?
Because he was running, you assumed he was a beta tester.
If you know your way around the earlier stages of the game before it's even out for a full day, that's a fair assumption.
This marks the end of the tutorial and the official launch of Sword Art Online.
Don't tutorials offer guides on how to play and level up so noobs don't have to rely on beta testers?
It does. It's called the guidebook in the next episode.
Did they seriously just copy and paste one face onto 7 different people?
No, they didn't. It's very slightly different.
Come on, Colin.
Out of 9,787 people, Jesus-kun is the only person to decide, hey, let's just do what the mass murderer fucking says.
Man, it's almost like the vast majority of people are still in shock or something. Also, you don't know that. Because they cut the rest of the panic since Kirito is the point of view character, he could have just been earlier to respond to others. Also, yeah, he will be referring to Kirito as Jesus-kun for most of the videos. He later starts calling him God-kun. And, like, it might be funny at first. I used to think it was funny, but it gets really stale after like the 5th time you've heard it. And once you realize he uses it every fucking upteen billion chance he gets, then you really start to want to fucking hang yourself.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only shot of Jesus-kun's mom, Mari-san. Or at least I think it is.
That's his sister, Suguha. Cousin or sister. I thought you of all people would recognize the one you call Milk Tits anywhere.
So you guys know the boss's weapons, attack patterns, and minions, but don't know the location of where he is?
They're going off the knowledge of the beta test, which proves both here and later to be inaccurate considering what happens.
Opening gets viewer pumped only to be inevitably disappointed.
While this is true, I'm still putting a sin on it because in every other show AniSins criticizes, they'll always remove at least 1 to 5 sins for the opening.
But yeah, I'm definitely taking off 10 sins for this soundtrack. Bless Hiroyuki-sama though. Yep, this opening's pretty great. We gotta take off a sin. Also, holy shit, this opening.
And yet for some reason they add another for SAOs, despite claiming it's good. Very interesting.
Excuse me, all men are beaters. We don't like to be called out on it though.
Hey, don't generalize!
My name is Diabel, and in this game, the job I rolled is knight.
Dude, there's no job system in this game.
Nice.
You guys want to hear this or not?
2,000 people died? Sure, let's laugh about the game mechanics.
Says the guy who continues to bash the shows every millisecond, even after 4,000 deaths. And how the game works.
Beta guys just up and banished, right? They did stall us beginners. They snagged all the good hunting spots. And they grabbed all the easy quests too.
If that's the case, what the fuck has Jesus been doing for the past month?
Doing exactly the thing he just said? Didn't you see him wince in anxiety over his speech?
Cream does not soften hard bread.
It's a video game, and also an anime.
I didn't come to this town to eat good food.
The irony is strong with this one.
Wrong. She didn't come to eat good food. She came to make good food. Oh, this show is stupid.
I'm on it!
I thought she was a beginner, but she's got good skills.
She literally just ran in a straight line.
Okay, while the line itself may have been poorly timed, you say that while showing her immediately kill a monster with no previous instructions, thus proving his point. Maybe you should watch the whole clip or the episode before scrutinizing its every second?
But you weren't like that, Diabel. You never abandoned the other players.
He went against the plan which would prevent anyone from dying. But sure, let's praise him.
At least he tried to use his experience on a team effort, unlike certain other beta testers.
He used to be a beta tester! Think about it! He knew the boss's attack patterns! He knew, but he kept it from us! And I bet he's not the only beta tester here!
So let me get this straight. Even when they made a guidebook, stayed back to make a plan, and helped you defeat the boss, because they're beta testers, all of that is null and void?
No, because the information he withheld could have potentially saved Diabel's life, thus validating Kibao's rant from earlier.
If that's true, then you're worse than a beta tester! You're a goddamn cheater, that's what you are!
Because being better at a game than noobs qualifies as cheating.
To be fair, it is Kirito, so...
When we were fighting the boss, you called me by my name.
I wasn't trying to be rude.
So you act like a dick to everyone else, but you're fine with this bitch?
She did help him beat the boss.
I was wondering what level you're at. Level 20? Really? You're at our level and still a solo player?
Anyone who's played an MMO knows that a solo player can't get to higher levels than people who have been in guilds.
Obviously, Sword Art Online is no ordinary MMORPG, which you should be able to tell considering that the game, you scrutinize every single thing about it, as if you're the only one who's ever done that. Which, by the way, you're not by a long shot.
We've got 200,000 coal! Wow.
We still have no idea what the fuck a coal is worth.
Out of everything in this show, that's the thing you're held up on?
We'll clear this game and go home soon.
I'm crying so much right now. You just can't see it because you can't see my face.
Where the fuck did those tears come from, Alex?
No way! A hidden door?
I thought you said you knew shit even information brokers didn't know.
I know a bunch of other things too. More than you can imagine. More than any info broker.
Yes, he did say that, in a scene where he lied about being an elitist asshole so he could be their scapegoat instead of the other beta testers. Do you not think about this for even a second?
It's a trap, guys! It's a trap!
Why did you add a sin for a reference that you made?
It's racist.
Just calling something racist because it's black, huh? You really are CinemaSins ripoff.
Ooh, it looks like you were successful getting your hands on the Numa flower. Congratulations. Now, hand it over before you get hurt.
Can't you just use it now, so she can't steal it? Or would that prevent the battle that proves how OP Kirito is from happening?
And then she can kill it and make this entire episode pointless? Or rather, more pointless than it already was?
And watching them earn all that beautiful money.
Once again, you've added a sin for a reference that you made. This would be like if I just showed a reaction clip to one of your complaints like this and then counted that as criticism. It's not funny, nor is it insightful. And I know someone in the comments is gonna go, "But Evan, it's a joke!" Yeah, but the point of jokes is that they're supposed to be funny, and this wasn't.
We should meet up in the real world. That would be cool. 'Cause I like having you as a friend.
Friend zone, friend zone.
Really? Again? Okay, fuck this. From now on, every time you do this, I'm just gonna play some funny clip and then count that as criticism towards you, of which you have no right to complain about because you do the exact fucking thing as you did right now. The same exact thing. Fuck, I can't speak today.
Good morning. You slept like a rock.
Tsundere bitch mode activate.
Oh yeah, that's the issue here. Not the fact that he said good morning in the fucking late afternoon. How am I doing a better job at nitpicking the show than you, who's made a career out of it for 4 years now? Hi, Evan from the future here. I just wanted to make this clip because I wanted to note that, like, AniSins claims to be, like, scrutinizing every single thing about SAO, and yet there are certain things that he overlooks that you'd think he would have, and would have been completely justified to do so. For example, in the end of episode 2, Kirito gives a brief speech about how about how there's a limit to what solo players can do while being Kirito, which is really funny in the grand scheme of things, considering this is the same guy who could do basically anything at will.
だから、もしいつか誰か信頼できる人にギルドに誘われたら断るなよ。ソロプレイには絶対的な限界があるから。
Or, like, how he completely misses the opportunity to talk about how stupid Kirito is despite supposedly being a pro gamer, and yet he doesn't know that the NPCs aren't living people in the game.
NPC は岩や木みたいなオブジェクトとは違う。彼らは
生きているとでも。
Hey, anyone want to buy a wet blanket? We got a wet blanket for sale.
That might seem a little nitpicky, but like then again, his job is supposed to be overly nitpicky, but instead he goes for the cheap shots. And I just think that's annoying. Granted, I don't like the CinemaSins mindset at all, because it's like do you really feel smarter by just ruining things regardless of their quality? And again, I have to reiterate, just because I am defending SAO does not mean that I like it or that I think it's good. There are plenty of valid criticisms you can make against SAO. Fuck, I can't speak today. There's actually another thing I wanted to mention, and it's that, like, AniSins will also constantly lambast the English dub voice actors for sounding bad. And again, you don't have to like the English dub, and I understand that. I'm sub-pilled, so, like, I watch the sub whenever I can, and like, you don't have to like Bryce Papenbrook's voice either. But imagine criticizing someone else's voice for just being annoying while being AniSins. Just saying.
Because listening to Bryce Papenbrook speak English wasn't deafening enough.
Alright, if we both make it, no holding back.
Also, Bryce Papenbrook is still using this voice, which is worse than his actual voice. I didn't even think that was possible.
Anyway, back to you, Evan from the past.
Figures it's the chick with the purple hair.
Actually, this is a thing a shit ton of anime will do, the whole spot the main character joke, you know? But of course, he makes it sound like a unique problem to SAO. Very interesting.
Oh, and by the way, try not to be so rude when you're speaking to me.
Oh, okay. Should I call you Ms.?
Oh, never mind. Call me Asuna.
You want him to stop calling you something so informally, so you tell him to call you by your first name without any honorifics? That's informal!
You literally showed her saying never mind, implying that she didn't think it was a big deal anymore.
When we formed it, Golden Apple was the name we chose.
Glad to see we're getting backstory on a guild that's never gonna be brought up again. Like, ever. Seriously, this shit is so fucking pointless.
You should be, because it's relevant to the episode.
Hey, modern day references! Laugh!
Come on.
3-on-1 and even the mere sight of Jesus couldn't make the murderers run away.
Ignores the part where Kirito says an entire army is on their way. Okay.
But she looked so much happier here. More alive than she ever did in the real world. But then I realized I didn't have to live with the way she was. Murder is part of this game.
So because a woman gained individuality, you killed her off?
Well, Alex, that's the point!
The murderer of the person the three of you wanted to avenge is right in front of you. But he falls to his knees and puts on a sad face, so you forgive him.
Nobody said anything about forgiving him, you absolute lunatic. They could just be taking him to prison. Just because they don't tear him apart in a fiery vengeance doesn't mean they're letting him off easy. I mean, this particular instance might seem a little nitpicky for me, but I want to point it out so I can emphasize Alex's kind of hateful view on the idea of justice. It gets worse from here on out. I also wanted to point it out additionally because the thing is, this is one of the few arguments in this video that actually carries over in every other video he makes that isn't about SAO. For some reason, AniSins seems to think that bad guys are capital B bad and can never be redeemed no matter what they do. And that's a really regressive and destructive way of looking at art in general, because a lot of good writing tends to focus around making you emphasize of characters, even ones you wouldn't usually find sympathy with, like villains. He's just against things that make stories good. Not saying SAO is one of those, of course, because SAO's attempts, you like with Kayaba, are absolutely horrendous. But, like, I'm just saying that, like, in general, a lot of his complaints are like, oh, you're forgiving the bad guy even though they did some terrible thing. And it's like...
Oh yes, brilliant time for an Annie backstory so the audience can think, maybe she's not so bad even though she murdered hundreds of people.
We have to get him out of that psycho's clutches. 'Cause that's what friends are for, am I right?
Yeah, also putting knives to each other's necks and pulling pants down. Hashtag friendship. Showing us this, like, 27th fucking backstory does not make anything Yuno has done okay. So Miraniki tries to make first 10 Midget seem like a good person, apparently. Even though she was, like, the main evil mastermind the whole goddamn time.
I never wanted to do such a thing!
Yeah, I swear, man, all 20 of those spears were shoved through your body by accident.
You always did have a real knack for getting into trouble. And that's why I had to look out for you.
Oh yes, I'm shedding all of the tears right now. Because Veronica had such a defining personality, like coming off as a bitch, and not knowing how to listen to people.
Wow, you're completely missing the point of good writing, which tends to help you emphasize with characters who otherwise wouldn't be empathetic. Anyway, let's go on. Side note, there was a moment where Kirito and Asuna had a brief discussion after the events of this episode, where they talk about how, what if you found out that there was a new side to someone that you were with? And then Kirito says, oh, well, that would be a new side for me to fall in love with, right? And, like, I disagree with that because the way I see it, what if that other side had killed the other person's family or was cheating on them or was just a fraud in every possible way? Like, that's not necessarily a good thing to find out or to be in the first place. I would have actually completely agreed with AniSins if he had taken a minute to debunk this flawed logic. But does he? No. He doesn't. This is actually something I thought he'd point out, and I would have completely agreed with if he did so, and yet he skips it in favor of scrutinizing the ghost adding romantic effect moment.
Stupid impossibilities placed in for romantic effect.
So even as a nitpicker, he fails miserably. Using your own "I'm so smart because I hate everything" mentality, I could actually make a much better video on this series than you, but of course I won't do that because that's the position I'm trying to debunk and destroy.
I bet he must be pretty special, whoever he is. Huh? Did you say something?
Saying something important followed by never mind cliche.
That doesn't sound like a cliche when you word it so specifically. If you had said, never mind cliche, or just not called it a cliche, that would have at least been more serviceable.
There's a dragon there that eats crystals. According to the legends, it's supposed to store a rare metal in its body. They say that in order to get the metal, you need to bring a master smith along.
If this metal-producing dragon is still a rumor, how are you 100% certain that you need a master blacksmith nearby? And even then, why do you need a master blacksmith nearby?
Quests in RPGs often have some absurd rules on how to play in the real world, and yet the few times SAO acts like a real game, he still squeals like it's the worst thing ever. Very interesting. Side note, there's a picture of Liz in what I think is her old guild, the backstory of which is never explained. You'd think the master nitpicker trying to make the definitive SAO hate video would point this out, but no, instead we get more shit like, Liz was prepared to be neglected.
Besides, most of the time, instead of helping, party members just get in the way. Everyone except for you.
Good.
Yeah, fuck Lisbeth, Sachi, and Silica.
Oh, stop pretending like you actually give a shit about any of these characters.
Yuki Kajira chanting is still Yuki Kajira chanting.
What's this? The one thing everyone agrees is great about SAO is the soundtrack? Well, here at AniSins, admitting that SAO did anything good is against our religion, so we'll complain about it anyway, like how it... there's chanting in this OST, that makes it bad!
Kirito's scream is more feminine than Asuna's.
And that's bad because... why?
Klein, I'm 24 and single and looking for
You two aren't even going out yet, so what's the problem? Make a move or get out of the way.
You're seriously gonna ignore the fact that Klein is acting like he's never met Asuna despite standing next to her in episode 5 during the meeting? Again, the criticism channel missed something that pretty much anyone else would have noticed by now. Man, it's almost like these fuckwads don't care about legit criticism and actually only care about shitting on the show that already gets shat on a lot.
Bitch gets punched. Actually, that's pretty funny.
Let's see that in an instant replay.
Are you fucking kidding me? So even when you get what you want out of the stupid show, it still gets sinned? It seems to me like you just wanted to announce to everyone that you fantasized about punching this cartoon teenager simply because she's in a show you don't like. See what I mean about his view on justice?
faster! Gotta go faster! Gotta go fast! Gotta go fast! Gotta go faster, 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 faster!
Hey, modern day references!
Fuck!
I just killed an innocent bystander because of you.
No, you didn't have to kill an innocent person. If you stopped being a crazy lunatic, then you wouldn't have to kill anyone.
Oh yes, because everyone has equal opportunities every day, all the time, and people can just choose not to be crazy lunatics. And I know I've just invaded the argument for, but Evan, it's a joke, you autistic liberal, stop being liberal. But like, but considering that CinemaSins, and by extension most CinemaSins ripoffs, love to toss around the joke card as if it makes them immune to criticism, despite CinemaSins having a video where he flat out admits that his channel is about criticism actually, that argument means nothing.
You've got to stop. You've got to stop. This is a problem. Like, it's funny to make jokes the first few times, but it's literally every other day at this point, and it's not going to stop. It won't stop because the general public is already kind of like idiocracy people. I'm not making this video for jokes. I'm not joking around. Also, this specific instance doesn't seem like a joke. It seems like Alex genuinely believes that murderers and criminals and bad people just have bad skull shapes and need to be fucking sent back to hell where they belong.
Asuna still tries to act like a good person even after her love interest was almost killed.
Okay, here I actually agree with him, but not for the same reasons. In the original web novel version of this scene, Asuna does in fact kill Kurodil, which is great for her character, not because I'm a bloodthirsty psychopath, but because she proves how badass she is by being willing to murder anyone who hurts someone she loves. So yes, I am salty that they changed it to, again, making her into a damsel for another cute, they're so cool moment, but Alex doesn't like it because, as we've seen before, he thinks some people are just capital E evil and deserve to die no matter what.
Oh my god, is he younger than me?
Newlywed bitch doesn't know husband's age.
They are clearly close in age, you absolute you absolute buffoon.
Of course, all the soldiers are men to make males besides Kirito look like pieces of shit.
Oh yes, a bunch of army generals ganging up on a bunch of kids would totally be fine if it was only women and not all men. But also, what about Egil and Klein? They're seen in a positive light, and they're not Kirito. Or how about Edgy, a sympathetic villain from the Ordinal Scale movie? Or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Deus Olbert? Or
what shitty parents let 8 to 10-year-olds play a game revolving around monsters and swords where you can strip nude?
If we live in a world where 5-year-olds can play Call of Duty with no parents going nuts, then why can't they play Sword Art Online?
Excuse me?
The SAO animation is good, right guys?
Wow, having one still frame for about 5 seconds in an episode that otherwise is fully animated everywhere else? Fucking terrible animation!
Oh, come on, Yui. Don't you want to stay here with me? No!
All I want to do is run away with you. I don't care if we never make it back to the real world. I just want to live with you, in our little house in the woods.
Well, you can't, so shut up.
This one actually baffles the shit out of me more than it should. One of the few times they act like a realistic couple within this shit show, and he brushed it off with the whole reality sucks for everyone conservative boomer shit. That would explain why he thinks bad guys can't be redeemed or even allowed to repent for what they've done. But you know what? Just for shits and giggles, I'm going to apply that same logic to you every time you whine about having to do this, even though it was clearly your fucking choice. You could have walked out of this any time, but
more boring than watching someone else play an RPG.
I can think of one more thing that's more boring.
Yeah, you're right. Watching your videos is pretty tedious.
How many times can you reuse this scene of pointless fodder characters dying?
Well, clearly they're not that pointless if they keep bringing it up. And also, I'm going to pin this comment too because it's going to become double hypocritical later.
I gotta go faster! Gotta go fast!
Also, why did it take 50 people to kill the 75th boss with the help of the 100th boss, but it takes one person to kill the 100th boss? How is this a game?
They were fighting as equals, and Kirito's will broke through.
Where are we?
Not Kansas.
In any world, real or virtual, once you're dead, you're gone.
Are you sure they don't come back? Because 2 just did, like 90 seconds ago.
This is also a little confusing, but Remember when Kirito told Kayaba to keep Asuna alive if he dies? This is him keeping his word. And also, the show tried to imply that Kayaba was so impressed that Kirito could break through his rules that he decided to spare them both afterwards. These are two very specific exceptions to the rule, but of course you don't show the clip of Kayaba agreeing to spare Asuna because your argument would look even stupider, as opposed to how you look now for ignoring some important context.
What's the point? Why did you do this?
It's been so long, I've forgotten the reason.
Way to provide zero effort in giving our villain a reason to kill 4,000 people.
Let's be real, even if he was a fucking One Piece villain with the most sympathetically tragic backstory ever, you would still think he's beyond redemption. Admit it, Alex. You don't give two fucks about legit criticism in writing. You just want everyone to know you have good taste in anime by shitting on the show everyone shits on. Wow, I have the opinion that everyone else shares? Will you please believe I am an interesting person now?
It's finally over. Huh? Wait, what was that? Wait, there's more?
That's exactly how I feel about your series and channel. I'm gonna take a couple less notes from here on because like 90% of his arguments are either repeated shit or they're borrowed from better SAO haters. A lot of these are also just jokes that for some reason count as criticism because they're too lazy to come up with actual arguments, but not sinning SAO is the biggest sin to them, so yeah. Now it's time to move on to the even more awful Fairy Dance arc. So already we got ourselves a missed sin right here, because if you really didn't want to make this video like you claimed to do throughout it, you could have just ended it at everything and everyone would have been happy.
Are you kidding me? This is happening? It's been over a year since the last SAO video. Can I just not do this?
No, you can't. So shut up.
Someone tell me why Jesus-kun or his parents wouldn't have smashed that thing into pieces?
Maybe because he wants to savor the few good times he had in it, or to remember not to do it again.
Opening 2 is not opening 1.
And yet you still send it anyway, even though every other show you've covered gets a free pass. Very interesting.
Hey, she may not be the biggest misogynistic symbol of female inferiority since she's literally a damsel trapped in a cage waiting for Jesus-kun to save her. But at least she has a hot outfit.
Again, please stop pretending like you actually give a shit.
At least you've been keeping it up. It's light.
What? It's not light. It's timber bamboo.
Oh, yeah, right.
Fun fact, kids, if I play a character in a video game that uses guns or swords constantly, and then I try to pick one up in real life, my experience playing that video game has no effect on actual weapons. Are you kidding me? Basically, playing SAO for 2 years in a virtual world did not enhance your actual physical capabilities at all because you weren't actually fucking doing it. Is this real?
Jesus Christ, his mind was stuck inside a game that was a virtual world where he did real swordplay, you fucking idiot.
Jesus-kun has a key card to Asuna's room? Her parents just allowed this?
Because he saved her life? And about 6,000 others too?
But why go through all this trouble to wed these two people? What's the motive? Money? Power? Work? This is all just an incredibly forced situation, so Jesus-kun has another competitor with Asuna.
Again, don't act like you would ever take him seriously if he had a backstory.
Please select which race you wish to play as.
That one looks good.
You have selected Spriggan.
Of course, Sir Edgelord goes with the black sprite.
Wow, he's picking the one that looks cool over one that's statistically better for beating the game. It's almost like he's a real fucking person. Just kidding, he's actually not a real person, but once again, this actually feels like something I could see a real teenager doing. And yeah.
This is great! I think I've got it down.
Ah yes, flying in this game is apparently really hard, but our Lord and Savior can figure it out in 12 seconds.
And then crashes afterwards.
How fucking stupid can you be? He looks like him, sounds like him, his avatar name is extremely similar to his actual name, and he's a 1-inch thick, all-black wearing edgelord who holds his sword like a fucking weeb. You are a gigantic titted fucktard.
In a game where people's avatars are completely random and out of their control, she probably didn't suspect that her cousin would get one so reminiscent of his true self.
You help another race with a quest if they're the ones who get the reward. Can you imagine anyone being cool with that arrangement?
Yeah, a lot of people. It's a fucking video game. I'm pretty sure there are plenty of people who would set aside the unlimited wings bullshit to have the title of first group of people to beat the tree bullshit.
In a competitive game, people sometimes act like animals when they lose. As someone who did for an entire year over Smash Bros. Online, I can vouch for that. Hell, people continue to break shit in their rooms over Smash Bros. Not having their favorite characters as playable. You act like every single person who plays this game would be like, yeah, I'm totally 100% fine with only flying for 5 minutes while these self dickwads can fly freely because I helped them get there and got nothing in return. Go me. Oh fuck, I looked away for literally a second and he's already added like 762 sins in the 3rd episode of the arc. Again, I must reiterate, they don't actually give a shit about being logical.
It wasn't too difficult to adjust the routers. The minute SAO's players were logged out, I just grabbed a few from the flow. Just like that, I had 300 of my very own test subjects.
How the fuck did anyone not realize that the program that the Nerve Gears were running after logging out of SAO was Alfheim? Are people just that stupid that they couldn't even find that shit out?
Yeah, how dare those hospitals keep those players left behind still alive while they're unconscious? Why couldn't they just fry their brains like everyone else already? And also, he's obviously doing his malicious plan in secret, you fucking clown. Oh, shoot, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend any clowns watching this.
It's not like that body's real.
Regardless if it's a real body or not, you still feel like you're in an actual body, you dumb twat.
Says the guy who claims that Kirito's sword skills from being stuck inside a virtual fantasy world fighting with swords for 2 years didn't happen and therefore didn't translate into real life.
I need you to stay behind and focus on healing me. That way I can fight harder and not worry about my HP.
What the fuck do you mean not worry about HP? You have your same stats from SAO, right? Aren't you fucking overpowered right now? You stood in the middle of 7 guys and nothing fucking happened. You could probably fuck up the creatures in the water too.
Alfheim players are different from the Team Rocket wannabes from SAO, you idiot.
As long as I'm alive, I'm not gonna let anyone in my party die.
It's a normal video game, sir, fucking edgelord.
It's called PTSD, dumb fuck. Ever heard of it? You must have, because you keep claiming you have it over this show. Also, he's kind of trying to save his girlfriend, so he has every right to be overly serious.
But AniSins, this is a throwback to when those fodder idiots died in SAO. Yes, I know that, and I cannot give any less fucks.
You denounce the fact that he's also scarred by the loss of his guild by saying, I know he has a reason to be that way, but I don't give any less fucks. So even when he has a reason to be the way he is, it's still a sin. Very interesting.
In a virtual world, there's things you have to protect because it's a virtual world.
Yes, so many important things like your weapons, abilities, relation, fuck it.
Again, if you got stuck inside a goddamn death game for 2 years straight, you would be overly serious about this shit too.
Can I ask why literally everyone looks so in shape? I mean, generally speaking, video game players aren't necessarily notorious for being the most fit people in the world.
They are avatars, you stupid baby.
Oh no. He's the strongest player?
Adding 100 sins here for flat out saying, yeah, Jesus couldn't single-handedly beat the best person in the game after playing it for fucking 2 hours.
If anyone could do it, it would be a guy who fought for his life for years inside a death game.
I love how Jesus-kun was flat out told he was trying to be seduced, and instead of saying that he had a girlfriend, wife, slave thing, he just said that he had to go to the World Tree. Jesus-kun continues to be a Class A douchebag.
I thought you said taking the normal video game seriously was stupid. Oh wait, I forgot. Stanislavski opinion. You'll just pick whatever argument suits your narrative in the moment and then contradict yourself later once it becomes convenient to do so. To AniSins and everyone who liked his video, I have to ask, how does it feel to just jump around with no consistent argument other than SAO bad? Me smart.
But those 2 years I spent trapped in SAO taught me something. The difference between a real and a virtual world is slim at best. It's a waste of time asking people who they really are.
Yes, because I act the same in person as I do when playing shitty MMORPGs like Destiny. Hell, it may as well be saying the way I talk and present myself on YouTube is the exact same way I talk to people in real life, which is actually fucking hilarious.
Different experiences lead to different worldviews, especially if you were trapped for 2 years inside a death game. I cannot emphasize that enough.
And I can't come back until she wakes up.
And when you do, I'll be there.
It doesn't matter how long it takes. I'll be waiting for the day you come back to us for real.
Because a girl that you spoke to for like 3 weeks and married in a video game should definitely be more important than your own family.
Didn't we already establish that Kirito always distances himself from his family and fought beside Asuna for 2 years inside a death?
Why are the Guardians targeting us instead of him? My guess is they're using a different targeting algorithm than any of the other bosses in the game.
This game had an algorithm where no other boss attacked healers? Then this has to be the easiest game I've ever heard of.
Who the fuck wants to be a healer in a virtual fantasy world where you can fly around and fight monsters and shit?
It's locked by the system administrator.
What's that supposed to mean?
Restricted access. This door was never intended to be opened by a player.
Then why the fuck would you make that a quest in the first place? What if some players beat this impossible quest, couldn't get in, then got fucked up?
Well, Alex, that's the fucking point!
There was never any grand quest. The whole damn thing was a lie. He's gonna pay for this.
Yes, how dare he lie about the grand quest? Make him pay for that. Not, marrying and fucking your Xbox wife.
He clearly means everything he's done, you worthless fuck. Am I in Stupidsville right now?
Hey.
Fucking stab me in the throat. And just let the knife sit there until you can see the life leave my eyes.
You chose this path. Nobody made you watch SAO for the channel but you. You did it because you thought it was funny and gets a shit ton of views. I'm sorry, but actually, fuck you. I'm not sorry. Because when you start off your career on YouTube by exploiting the show that everybody else already shits on for fun, you don't get to whine about how nobody lets you do anything else. Your path. Your choice. Deal with it. Okay, that's enough of Alfheim. Now it's time for Gun Gale Online. Actually, just kidding. Don't worry, I'm not gonna put you through all that, or most of his videos. Except for one in particular. The reason I'm skipping right to Mother's Rosario is because everything between the end of Fairy Dance and getting through all of Phantom Bullet and past Caliber is more or less what you'd expect from the moments I've pinned already. This may also apply to Ordinal Scale and Alicization. It's just him whining and making suicide jokes because, haha, people killing themselves over a stupid-ass cartoon for entertainment is funny, I guess. Anyway, there's a couple scenes that he did that really grabbed my attention. For example, right here, when Asuna's talking with her mom about the future.
Even the faculty's substandard. They're a bunch of losers with no real credentials to speak of.
I love how this show is trying to paint this mom as a villain even though this mom is actually fucking great. She has great values and wants her daughter to succeed. Yeah, she can seem a little bit bossy, but it's the mother. She has every right to be like that. Instead of seeing her daughter play for video games 16 hours on end. Hell, I'd be that grouchy if I saw my kid doing that. Yet this show is still trying to paint the narrative that, hey, this mom doesn't want you to spend your entire day playing video games and wants you to talk to your family. Don't be like her. Play more video games.
Are you shitting me right now? You, Mr. Bad Guys are irredeemable monsters who deserve to die with no sympathy whatsoever, are taking the side of the clearly abusive mom who wants to sell her daughter off to some guy she doesn't love just to make herself feel better. You know, the exact thing that her dad and Sugo were trying to do in Alfheim. Oh, well, she said it's for the best and acts vaguely mature about it, so therefore it's completely different. Also, yeah, he didn't show the part of the clip where Asuna points out that her mom is actually just trying to compensate for her own insecurities by forcing her expectations onto her daughter, aka abusive behavior 101. Presumably because defending her would make him look like he's pro-abuser, which, by the way, he still does. Also, just because she doesn't literally hit her child doesn't mean she's a good parent. She clearly looks down on her in every scene she's in, even though Asuna is trying her best within her current situation. AniSins acts like the mom is literally right about everything and is the best parent ever, which, if she was, where the goddamn hell was she when her fucking husband was trying to sell Asuna off to some creepy rapist guy? And also, the whole for the best attitude is one of the most common excuses for abusers to hide behind when confronted with their shitty ways. And yet he doesn't just ignore it, he encourages it? Very Interesting. Another thing he cut off was the fact that the mom is disappointed in Asuna not being in a higher class school, even though the one she's attending is a trauma school for SAO survivors. The fact that you berate her for choosing to stay in a school designed to help her work through her trauma from being stuck inside 2 games for 2 years is very, very inconsiderate of you. One more thing, Asuna is doing the best already. We're told that her grades are still very good, which isn't much, but considering that SAO likes to tell not show, that's what we got. And also, she even tells her other friends not to spend too much time playing games because of schoolwork. Last when her mom does actually fuck off and let her live her life, he says,
I love what this show did. No, bitch. Don't get a better education to be more successful in life. You can stay in your shitty school and play more video games with your friends. They actually just splattered the only character whose morals I agreed with.
And there you have it, folks. AniSins is such a fucking obnoxious piss baby cry bully about proving he has good taste in anime that he's perfectly willing to blindly support an abusive parent who doesn't give a shit about her daughter's needs and interests simply because he thinks it makes him look smart. Am I the only one who thinks this is an issue? Really? It's the mentality of a fucking infant, and the fact that I see more people support her in this, especially even some SAO fans, is really, really frustrating. Anyway, so let's get to my main arguments. So the reason I put myself through this is because I felt like someone needed to call out AniSins on some of the stupid nonsense they've said in their videos. I wanted to show just how much people are so desperate not to look stupid that they'll blindly ride the bandwagon of whatever opinion is cool at the moment, regardless of what they actually believe. And before you criticize me for just hating people who hate SAO, just look at DX Fan's reviews of SAO, particularly the Mother's Rosario video in comparison. He actually takes a good minute to talk about the things he liked.
I don't know if it's because I've been with this series for so long or what, but I'll be completely honest and say that I really want to like this show. It's got all the ingredients there for a great series, and if you were to describe most of the show's arcs to me, I'd probably be interested at the very least. This has never affected my critique, however. If I think something in the series is bullshit, and considering that this is the 4th of these videos, I think a lot in SAO is bullshit, I will call it out and talk about it.
He tries to explain the Asuna and her mom situation more in depth.
For this scene, it seems like he woke the fuck up, because contrasting this scene just visually with its light novel counterpart shows a far more somber atmosphere than what was drawn. The lighting is far dimmer, and both characters, Asuna and her mother Kyoko, are displayed more face-to-face with each other than diagonally distanced as the light novel describes. I don't think this is good direction by any stretch, but there seems to be genuine effort here to convey the messages the characters are saying. It's too bad the messages are bullshit. Asuna's mother chastises her for her continued use of the Amiosphere. She wonders why, after 2 years of being trapped in a death game, the device doesn't disgust Asuna. She says that because Asuna was in SAO, she's also 2 years behind other students, and she, despite getting good grades, needs to catch up. With Kyoko's initial lines, you'd think that she's the voice of reason, but likely because the writing doesn't want her to be any voice of logic, or it's just incompetent, all of Asuna's counterpoints aren't that bad. The school that all the SAO kids go to is apparently not very good, but we're never shown that, just told. There's nothing in the show that ever implies it's a bad place to learn. In fact, the opposite is implied later on in this arc. If the message here was to tell Asuna that she needs to start thinking about her future and stop worrying about this dumb game, then they went about it poorly. No, Asuna doesn't have all the answers about her future, but I'm not sure what 18-year-old does, and she's doing the best she can given the circumstances, as we're even shown her encouraging others to finish their homework. The implication that Alfheim Online is robbing Asuna of a future simply isn't exemplified in the series. Kyoko is clearly just jaded against these games and people of lower class, and instead of making a legitimate point that it's not a bright idea to continue playing VR MMOs where people have died, It's a rather genericized conversation about school with the undertones of what it means to be a teenager in Japanese society. Nevertheless, it's an interesting scene because you never see any real-world implications or themes being brought up in this anime. Most of the scene is also silent too, with only dialogue pushing the conversation and little background music. It also ends with a sick burn from Asuna.
母さん。何？母さんは亡くなったおじいちゃんとおばあちゃんのことを恥じているのね。由緒ある名家に生まれなかったことが不満なんでしょ。アスナ、ちょっとここに来なさい。アスナ。
He links the problems of SAO all together naturally.
I've skipped a few problems here and there, but they're largely inconsequential in comparison to the overall problem with this arc and the series. I mentioned before the setup for the Caliber arc, and how they were on a timer to make sure that they saved Alfheim in time. And now with the actual death of a character, it's become quite apparent, more than ever, that Sword Art Online has no idea how to create stakes. Think back to Gun Gale Online, where the stakes were that people were being killed and Kirito might die. Think back to Alfheim, where Asuna was practically being molested by Sugo, and of course, think back to the original Sword Art Online, where everyone was trapped in a game, and you die in real life if you died in the game. With Caliber, the entire game may be destroyed, and with Mother's Rosario, a literal death. If it's not death with SAO, it's rape. And if the villains aren't rapists, they're empty shells of people with no motivation except to kill. Because SAO is such an incompetent series, it's constantly stuck in two states. Either it wants to pretend it doesn't exist in the real world and is a fantasy anime, or it wants to use real-world consequences to create tension within the game. You can't have it both ways, and it's this discord between these two themes that creates many of the problems we see in the show. This arc doesn't have a maniac who is out to kill people, or a lunatic out to take advantage of the girls. It's no surprise that Mother's Rosario having the least amount of that horseshit, and even a subdued Kirito influence, would yield this result. It's just a story about Asuna and a friend. But again, because SAO is so incompetent, it can't even do that correctly. While it does achieve its goal of creating a friendship between Asuna and Yuki, it's at the cost of most logic. The ass-pulled nature of Asuna's conflict with her mother, and the ridiculous circumstances by which we arrive at Yuki's conflict, do well to remind us that SAO is a contrived series, even without its gaming aspects. And while this is the best arc of the entire series, it's still awful.
And he even calls out just how annoying the haters can be about it as well. You know why? Because a lot of his fans will bully and berate him for the opinions he has on every other show, but the moment he targets SAO, everyone blindly agrees and supports it. Hurts him.
People will bandwagon and say that SAO is terrible and I'm right on the money, but my opinions on a show like Mirai Nikki are garbage and that SAO is the only series I got right. Now, don't get me wrong, criticism is purely contextual, but this complete lack of any acceptance of criticism for certain series, while at the same time lambasting a series that is popular to dislike, really bothers me. And this isn't just contained to my comments section. If you go to my anime list, you'll find that SAO is nowhere near the top 100 anime as ranked by its users. It's number 887. And SAO 2, which I think is better than SAO, is 2,137. But what's this? Akame ga Kill is 778? Mirai Nikki is 477?
And yeah, he's pretty rightfully frustrated about that. And like, even Mother's Basement did this as well with an entire video where he reflects on his older work and acknowledges that people are not wrong for liking it despite his opinions. I've watched these AniSins videos for years now, and not once does he ever take a second to say something like, oh hey, this is my opinion, you don't have to agree with it, and if you do, And if you don't, I respect that. No, it's always him crying about how the fanboys are coming for him, as if the fanboys are some alien species incapable of handling rational discourse instead of, human beings with a different opinion. Besides, his SAO videos are flooded with supportive comments praising him for spoon-feeding them the opinion that, and I cannot stress this enough, is popular to have already. Or was more popular back when these videos were made, at least. In recent years, it seems like the SAO hate has started to die down, possibly because it got old or people just moved on. Another possibility is that because of the surprising success of the progressive movies, that like maybe the majority of viewers just thought, oh, okay, SAO is tolerable now? Or it could be both, or something else entirely. Whatever the case, for some reason, AniSins has not made a single video about SAO since Alicization, which is weird. Actually, I'm pretty sure their channel is dead because there hasn't been any activity from them in at least a whole year. Which, but it's especially interesting for them not to do War of the Underworld, the follow-up to Alicization, considering that Alicization ends on a cliffhanger. At the time of writing this, I haven't actually watched their more recent videos, so it's possible that they've improved somewhat. Let's quickly scroll through just to judge for ourselves.
5 hours later.
I don't know why I expected anything more. It's literally just the same ass shit, but more, and without the sin counter. Okay, unironically, that was definitely the best decision they've ever made. And yeah, that's really solid. I still hate you. That aside, it's basically just more repeated arguments and bullshit, overemphasizing some superfluous aspects as the creation of the devil itself, while completely sidestepping the few moments in which their anger is 100% justified and no one could argue against, all while dismissing people who dare to say they understand what's going on as liars and idiots who will be brought to justice. Although any world where AniSins succeeds is a pretty unjust one, in my opinion. Despite this, they did actually say one thing at the end that kind of made sense.
Man, this show really wants to be Aincrad. It's kind of crazy how the series goes full circle, and Aincrad is unironically the best arc. Jesus Christ, have some pride and actually try to make a new arc for once without trying to make an Aincrad reference every fucking 60 seconds. It's just pathetic at this point.
I think about that quote almost every time I bring up SAO in my mind. And don't worry, I'm working on my own SAO video in the future. It's taken so long because my opinions kind of bounced around, and I also have just been wondering how to go about it. But it is coming, and I am going to make it. And yeah, I've wanted to make a video about it from the start of the channel. It will be here soon enough. Anyway, yeah, so I think about this a lot, and somehow I believe even if SAO did try to be something new and put Aincrad in the past, AniSins would still hate it, and AniSins would probably still hate it. I wanted to point that out because, like, I used to be an AniSins fan, and I used to, back when I was still deciding what I thought of SAO, and I kind of would just go along with what he said. Even though I knew a lot of the stuff was wrong at the time, I still did it because I thought, oh, well, it's this show, who gives a fuck? But then DX Fan taught me that even the worst shows still deserve legit, logical, honest criticism. And for that, this video is kind of a way of saying thank you. Thank you for teaching me that rationality can exist even in the worst discourses. And to AniSins, go fuck yourself.